Hi guys! I want to talk about a serious topic, so here we go. I often avoid labels because I don't want to be held to being just one thing. But eventually I get so tired of pretending, I just can't do it anymore. So today I'm opening up about my labels, specifically these two. I have anxiety and I have depression. And maybe you wouldn't consider me to be anxious or depressed if you met me in person, but that's the thing. I pretend those labels don't exist because I don't want to be defined by these words, but in doing that, I put on a mask. Then that mask becomes my default. Because if I can just detach myself from being anxious or depressed, if I can pretend I'm Kate and I can pretend I'm fine in videos and around my friends, then maybe I can pretend I don't have a mental illness. At least, that is what I tried to do for years. If you ask me when my anxiety and depression developed, I cannot tell you the answer. I was always a little anxious and shy as a child. By the time I was 9 or 10, I was constantly nervous around other people and in public. And then by age 11, I was at the point of almost constant panic attacks and feeling sad and hopeless and crying myself to sleep. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was a preteen and assumed it was normal to feel like this, to feel scared all the time, to feel overwhelmingly sad. Or worse yet, to just not feel anything at all. I would wake up in the morning in panic, and I would feel low throughout the day and get nothing done. And then at night I would get really sad. I would lay in my bed and push my fingers into my mouth and hold my knees to my chest so no one could hear or feel me if I cried. By age 12, I stopped coping with it on my own though. I felt very alone, but I started reaching out to a friend of mine. He became the most stable thing in my life for multiple years. I sent him a lot of probably very distressing texts at 2 a.m., to which he always replied. Thank you for that. This went on for a long time, upwards of 2 years almost. And eventually I listened to him when he said I had a serious problem and needed to talk to my parents. As for my parents, well, they're better at this now. But for the longest time, even though I showed so many different symptoms and I screamed and cried to them, and eventually I got to the point of just being like, I need help, they started paying attention. I never blamed them for neglecting my mental health. It wasn't their fault. The battle that went to my path with recovery, that was a mess. My parents at first didn't understand, so for months I didn't get care so much as I got some fighting and screaming, which in all honesty made me feel a lot worse, because suddenly something I had kept as my problem in my eyes was now a burden to other people. And it really did suck when my parents started checking in and constantly asking how I was feeling. I had become so adjusted to hiding everything I felt that at 14 years old I had to relearn how to express emotions. So while the symptoms of depression and anxiety and social anxiety can vary from person to person, if you want to know what it looked like for me, it was awful. With my depression, it kind of looks like this. I am tired a lot. I don't sleep at night, so I make up for it by sleeping during the day, and then I just feel groggy all the time. I get sad, I get really sad, and I start crying, and there's nothing I can do to fix it sometimes. And sometimes I just stop feeling it all. All my motivation is gone. I want to cease to exist because nothing feels real. And sometimes it just gets way worse. I start panicking as well, and then I feel so numb that I start reaching out to things like self-harm to find a way to feel real again, and at least that part of depression is further in the past for me. And along with that, I would get stuck feeling like I didn't deserve to live, which is an awful thing for someone so young at that point in time to be feeling, so I would skip meals or ration out my food to the point I starved myself for months. And my anxiety! Well, it's anxiety. I'm uncomfortable, I'm uneasy in restaurants and crowds and loud places. I am not a fan of being in public or making phone calls or talking to people, and I used to fall asleep and wake up just having panic attacks. And sometimes I do still have panic attacks. I can't control when they happen at random. Generally, my anxiety just makes me feel scared and unsafe, and I lose my appetite and I start shaking, and sometimes that just goes on for days on end, and finally after maybe a week I'll get relief and I'll feel good again for a while, but it's a cycle, and I honestly don't know why it happens. I still experience these things, any symptoms I mentioned past tense or present, but I'm a lot better at managing those symptoms now. After a struggle of figuring out what to do, after I realized I had 2 types of anxiety and depression, I got into therapy that I've now been in for over a year. And I can say now that after going to weekly cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, I have almost completely eradicated my general anxiety. My social anxiety is still a little rough, and I'm looking into more treatment for my depression, but it's better now. I am not a perfect person. Therapy and a story about recovery does not mean I don't deal with these daily. Depression and anxiety are a part of my life, and they might always be. But I am not just anxious, and I am not just depressed. I am a person, not just a mental illness. I am not in any way qualified to give advice, but if you feel as though you might have depression or anxiety based on what I said about my symptoms and experience, I'm going to put a list of symptoms and a link to better resources down in the description. But as always, things like eating healthy, exercise, sleeping enough, and self-care like showering and doing activities you enjoy are key parts to having good mental health generally. I'm happy to talk some more in the comments underneath this video if you have any questions about my experience with having depression and anxiety, or about therapy and how it works, or anything else I mentioned in this video. I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.